Hi, I'm Ted Santos, and I am your host of Straight Talk. We are the talk show that is made for men, by men. And ladies, you never want to miss it. We are the place for men to be able to speak openly about the way they think, about the way they like to handle things as men. And I'd like to have a conversation with you men about leadership, about love, about what men look for in a woman. And as you see by the title, I am saying, men, stop searching for love and leadership in a woman. And I know I did a video that talked about how men are following women, and there are many women who suffer from a mental illness called hybristophilia, which is a mental disorder that has people be attracted or sexually aroused by criminals, criminal behaviors, people who commit infidelity, that sort of thing. But that's not what I want to speak about today. What I want to get into is there is maybe one day we're going to call it a mental disorder because I'm going to call it the Fairytale Syndrome. And many women in the United States suffer from the Fairytale Syndrome. And it's probably fair to say that lots of women around the world who have been exposed to these stories like Cinderella, Snow White, hell, even Romeo and Juliet, right? So Shakespeare has supported and enabled the Fairytale Syndrome. And what that does is it creates a very unrealistic expectation that women have for a man, right? It's all based on fairy tales, and Hollywood is just fed right into it. And now when you look in India, Bollywood is falling into that trap as well, and many other countries are following suit. It sells, right? You know, boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back. You know, and what does girl do? She's Cinderella, and she does nothing. Someone magically gives her some shoes and a pumpkin and rats, and they all turn into this beautiful upscale carriage, Rolls Royce type thing, and she's the talk of the ball. And the movie Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts was really kind of that fairy tale where the prince comes to get her even though she's a prostitute, and most men just don't, especially high quality men, don't want prostitutes. However, gentlemen, women are holding on to this this fairy tale syndrome. And what do as men? You fall right into it and follow her leadership, and you attempt to be the princess. You let her set the bar, which has nothing to do with reality. And as I just pointed out, hell, Cinderella, what did she do to deserve the prince? She just showed up looking nice. Hey, as men, we do like attractive women. Snow White laid there dead. And from what I hear, some of you ladies lay there like that during sex and think you're doing a man a favor. That's that fairy tale syndrome. So what I'm getting at, fellas, is you are allowing women to set the bar for what it takes to make a relationship work. And you're doing most of the work, and she's setting the bar, so you're following her leadership. And you're wondering why we have such a high divorce rate. So let's look at how did we kind of get here. So there's a guy by the name of John Keats, and John Keats wrote a book in 1817, I'm pretty sure. John Keats wrote a book, and I'm scrolling through a document. sorry, it was 1819. John Keats wrote a book called La Belle Dame Sans Merci in 1819. And that book was one of the first love novels written. And in 1819, no one really cared about it. By the 1850s, that book caught on. And what women did, or their mindset became, oh, I want this fantasy love in a book. It was a fiction novel. And so this is what I'm getting at. There are a couple of things I'm getting at, gentlemen. Women are leading you with fiction stories. And women still today read these fiction novels. They watch these reality TV shows about wives of celebrities, and their brain, everyone's brain captures, records, and plays back in different variations everything you're exposed to. So if you're exposed to all these fairy tales, your brain is going to map out variations and sequences of how this fairy tale is supposed to happen. So even you, gentlemen, get caught up in many of these Hollywood stories. But you're literally taking the lead of women who got sucked up into this book by John Keats in 1819. As I said, by the 1850s, the book caught on. Many women wanted that. Instead of men saying, hey, this is not how relationships work. This is not how we build our legacy. This is not how we have a successful life. These books inform women of all the things a man is supposed to do in his job, and she gets to just live out the fairy tale while you do all the work. And you're following the lead on that. And as soon as you guys get your hands on a little money, you can't wait to lavish her with money. I heard stories of a woman, she said she went on one date with a guy, and after he sent her $3,000 and said, hey, do something for yourself. I met a woman who said her first date with the guy was he owned a plane. He takes her to the airport, he flies her to another state, and he has dinner and flies her back. And she said, hey, the next guy who wants to take me out, that's what you're competing with. You see, if all men take a stand and demand that a woman actually bring something to the table. So what am I getting at here? Compatibility is number one, right? So you all let women lead you into these beliefs that having something in common is the same thing as being compatible. So women talk about these ridiculous things like, oh, you have to know what color I like. Who gives a damn what color you like? So what we call values, right? Family values. So where does this woman fit in a spectrum of integrity? Is integrity high? Does she hold great importance to it? Like integrity. And I'm not necessarily talking about morals, but is she a person who does what she says she will do? Does she keep her word? Is her word her bond? Can you count on her? Does she keep the integrity of the relationship together by playing a role to make sure it works? Or is she just sitting there like Snow White dead in a coffin waiting for the prince to kiss her? How do you have a strong integrity that will hold the relationship together if she's just laying there? She doesn't participate. It's your job to do this. That's a man's role. That's a man's role. And you ask her role, well, you just need to be happy she's there. And if she allows you to have sex with her, sex is mutual. That is not something a woman does as a favor. You guys accept that also. In fact, you even believe you have to pay for sex, even though you are the one doing most of the work in sex and you're the one who holds life. So if she's looking for children, it's you who have to give her the gift of life to carry. She doesn't do that on her own. You guys are walking around like women are doing so much for you, and you're just taking it on the chin like you're lucky to have it. Let her sit out there and dry up. Women want sex too. And that's another thing, sexual compatibility. So guys, don't be afraid to interview women. Interrogate her ass. If you're looking for a relationship, if you don't care about that, I understand. But if you want someone in your life and you don't want to get burnt in divorce court and child custody battles, forget about what you have in common. Is she a clear communicator, right? Well, is she responsible? So if responsibility is a big deal for you, are you all compatible when it comes to responsibility? Are you compatible when it comes to playing roles in a relationship? Or is she the woman who believes it's your job, it's the man's job to do everything? Is she compatible in being able to bring a level of communication that allows the two of you to explore and learn and develop together? Or is that just your job? I mean, if she's looking for you to do all the work, hire her as a nanny. And then go pay some other woman to be a surrogate mother. But hell, you may not even want a nanny who's not responsible. There's another thing, that women believe love conquers all. Man, you guys really have to get off that. Like, really, really get off that. Love does not conquer all. If all you have are things in common, wow, we like the same movies, we like the same color, we grew up in the same town, we went to the same school. Those are great things to have in common, except if you're not compatible, and integrity being number one, sexuality being sexually compatible, the ability to communicate, the ability to be responsible, financial, managing money. I mean, that's huge. Lots of relationships fall apart. Compatibility with ambition. And there's a big one. And see, I'm going to get to that in a second. But you all have been indoctrinated with this belief that love conquers all and all you need is love. And people have sung songs about it. And I'm going to tell you, if you go into a relationship thinking that love is going to make it happen, man, you just might as well sign the divorce papers, even if you have a great prenuptial agreement. If you go into a relationship looking for love, you've essentially allowed women to lead you and dictate what you should look for in a relationship. Love doesn't do anything. It comes out of something, and the base of your relationship is not love, it's compatibility. Like, are your families even compatible from the way they see the world, what you call values? If you're not, there's a good chance this won't work. Are you compatible when it comes to socioeconomic class? And that leads me to the most important thing that a woman brings to a relationship. You all think it's love. You all think it's a nice ass and tits. And yes, I love those things. Pretty face is nice. A woman who's well groomed. She physically takes care of herself, right? Physically fit. That's another thing. Health compatibility. Man, I can't tell you the women I've met who did not take care of themselves and did not understand that the lack of health compatibility between the two of us was a problem, short and long term. But the number one thing that a woman brings to a relationship that's valuable is her network. It really is, guys. And I want to, I'm going to use something from a book here to help illustrate something. The number one thing is her network. Her first network is her family, right? So her parents had a network, and that network may have been partly developed from her grandparents, and her parents inherited that. And not just any network, right? The way you know if you are, one way to know if you're compatible with a woman is to look at the value of her network. Look at the socioeconomic class. If her network is a bunch of people who work as cashiers and burger flippers at McDonald's, I'm not condemning that, because lots of people have moved up to owning the franchise. But that's not most people. If her network cannot support your success, there's a good chance you're not compatible. There are tons of women who came from a lower socioeconomic class, and you know what? They may have even come from an equal socioeconomic class, except the way the woman did refuse to develop herself. She hooks up with a guy who's a professional. He's striving, he's ambitious, and he wants to have dinner at his boss's house with his boss's wife, and he's with a woman who feels uncomfortable with the socioeconomic class of her husband's boss. So she's uncomfortable, she doesn't want to go, she goes, she's like, she doesn't know how to mingle and engage. You can't take her to dinner parties and networking events. She doesn't know how to hold her own in a conversation, and she doesn't know how to build and develop the kinds of relationships with your boss's wife that's important. And your wife is critical. I've coached guys, and I've coached guys to become presidents and CEOs of companies. And I'm thinking of one guy, and he was never going to become a president of a company. I coached him. He went for an interview as president for 2 different companies, and one of them, at one point after several interviews, the next interview was with the CEO, current CEO, and that CEO said, "I want to meet your wife." And the 4 of them, two husband and wives, sat down and had dinner, and that guy, his wife, was a major selling point. She knew how to engage and be part of the conversation, and her husband did get that job. So that's another important compatibility. However, what I'm really getting at is this. All of these guys who have been titans and ultra successful, like the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and Henry Ford. Henry Ford wasn't this super brilliant, successful guy. He had a wife that knew how to pull the best out of him, right? She played a role in him becoming the Henry Ford we know. But also, these guys like Mrs. Ford, these women like Mrs. Ford, while their husbands are at work getting their hands dirty, forging their way in a new industry, new innovations, new development, taking risks, losing money, winning money, their wives are behind the scenes networking with other women, and sometimes men, or other women who are married to successful men. Some of those other women could be married to an investor, a banker, a husband who's a great engineer, an attorney. They are networking with other women who are married to successful women, and those women are behind the scenes weaving a web that helps support the success of their husband. So if your wife does not understand that's part of her role, if she thinks going out making $100,000 is worth more than her creating a $10 million network, you're probably not compatible. You see, just having book knowledge doesn't help her be able to forge powerful networks with other powerful people. And then know how to entertain them in your home. Cook a great meal. Be a gracious hostess. Look the part, physically fit, well groomed. A voice that endears a bond. Know how to bond with people. You know, these women who suffer from hybristophilia are usually not good at bonding. They're looking for their sexual excitement from a criminal. And she's probably networking with criminals. And if you're out looking to build an industry, a new industry, or a company, whether it's high tech or iron ore or auto manufacturing, you need a woman who's behind the scenes networking. And what happens if she inherits a great network from her family? She'll have sex with you before she shares that network with you. Now, the woman who's willing to share her network with you says a lot about how much she cares about you. And I'm holding a book by Martin Heidegger, Being in Time, and he has an interesting perspective on care. There's a fable I'd like to just read to you. This is about care. Once when Care was crossing a river, she saw some clay. She thoughtfully took up a piece and began to shape it. While she was meditating on what she had made, Jupiter came by. Care asked him and Jupiter came by, and then Care asked him to give it spirit. And this he gladly granted. But when she wanted her name to be bestowed upon it, he forbade this, and demanded that it be given his name instead. While Care and Jupiter were disputing, Earth arose and desired that her name be conferred on the creature, since she had furnished it with part of her body. They asked Saturn to be the arbiter, and he made the following decision, which seemed a just one. Since you, Jupiter, have given its spirit, you shall receive that spirit at its death. And since you, Earth, have given its body, you shall receive its body. But since Care first shaped this creature, she shall possess it as long as it lives. And because there is now a dispute among you as to its name, let it be called Homo, for it is made out of humus, earth. So our spirit goes back to Jupiter, our bodies go to Earth, but for our very existence, who we are as human beings is care. And it seems a lot of women have lost sight of that. One of the things a man is going to look for in a woman is actually care. Will you care about me enough to ensure my well-being mentally? So if a woman is sharing her network with you, she has to care, because the last thing she wants is to share her network and you destroy those relationships. So she has to make sure your well-being is on point, that she cares enough to make sure your diet is proper, your mental diet is proper, and the same if you have children with her. And surely to share the network she inherited from her parents. So care is critical, ladies. And if you don't understand that, you turn out to be more of a liability to a man as opposed to an asset. So, gentlemen, stop letting women lead you. Stop looking for love. If you are compatible, I promise you, in a very short time period, that strong foundation of compatibility will create an affinity, and this, wow, we are so much alike. It's very difficult for the two of you to find yourselves in arguments, because you're going to see eye to eye on values, how to raise children, how to educate them, how to manage money, how to communicate, responsibility, integrity. Those are critical in care. Does she even know how to care? That is what love grows out of and is much long lasting. But if you go into a relationship looking for love, you're just looking to be tricked. You'll be blinded by body and her knowing how to say soft little words and make you feel like there's something special there. Yet she did that for the last 50 guys. So, gentlemen, take a stand. It is you who lead. And besides, women may feel good about something today and not tomorrow. They're more emotional. And that is a level of instability. We know it, they know it. Take a stand. Do not ever let a woman lead you. Because she may want to lead in this direction today and tomorrow a different direction and can't even tell you why. I'm going to end it here. And definitely remember, care is one of the main things you're looking for in her. And it can't be an act. Like this video, share it. All men need to understand that it is their job to lead, not a woman giving lip service because she heard that. Comment below. I want to hear your thoughts. And if you're not in my Facebook group, join us. And until my next video, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Goodbye.